is do this once and people will never see you the same. Stand still, breathe and listen. There is a moment, quiet, unannounced, when a person decides who they are. Not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, now. Most people spend their lives waiting for permission, applause or certainty. But those who change the room when they enter, they do one thing differently. They choose discipline over comfort. They choose presence over noise. They choose action over excuse. And from that moment on, nothing about them is ordinary. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be angrier. You don't need to be impressive. You need to be unshakable. When the world pulls, you stand. When emotions surge, you remain calm. When fear whispers, you move forward anyway. This is the work. Understand this. Respect is not requested. It is demonstrated. People watch what you tolerate. They measure you by how you respond under pressure. They remember how you carry yourself when no one is clapping. If your mind is scattered, your energy leaks. If your body is weak, your will collapses. If your word is light, your presence fades. So do this once, commit to mastery of yourself. Wake before the world. Train your body until it obeys. Train your breath until it steadies you. Train your mind until it no longer runs wild at the first sign of resistance. When you speak, speak with intention. When you act, act decisively. When you promise, deliver without drama. This is not about aggression. It is about control. The strongest person in the room is not the one who dominates others, but the one who governs themselves. Calm eyes, straight spine, measured words, consistent action. Day after day, no negotiation. People will test you. They always do. Not because they are cruel, but because they are curious. They want to know where your edge is. If you fold, they learn. If you react, they learn. If you remain grounded and move forward regardless, they learn something else entirely. And that lesson spreads. Suddenly conversations change when you enter. Expectations rise. Excuses around you feel uncomfortable. Your silence carries weight. Your no is accepted. Your yes is trusted. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. This path is simple, not easy. It requires daily discomfort. It requires honesty without softness. It requires patience without delay. You will be tempted to explain yourself. You will be tempted to compare. Stop. 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 You will be tempted to quit quietly. Refuse. Remember, consistency is louder than intensity. One disciplined hour every day defeats years of occasional effort. One clear standard upheld without compromise reshapes how the world responds to you. Do this once. Set a standard so high that your old habits cannot survive it. Do this once. Decide that your word is final, especially to yourself. Do this once, and people will never see you the same because you will never be the same. Now, the call is simple and it is immediate. Choose one discipline today. Wake earlier. Train harder. Speak less. Finish what you start. Commit for 30 days. No exceptions. No stories. No retreat. Stand up. Straighten your posture. Breathe deeply and begin. Most people believe change begins with motivation, but motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls with mood, sleep, praise, and circumstance. What actually changes a person is discipline, the quiet decision to act correctly, regardless of how one feels. Mastery of yourself begins the moment you stop asking, "Do I feel like this?" and start asking, "What must be done?" This shift is subtle, but it is everything. When you choose discipline, you remove negotiation from your life. There is no debate in the morning about whether to wake up on time. There is no argument in your mind about whether to train, to focus, to stay silent, or to finish the task. You simply act, and action, repeated daily, rewires identity. Self-mastery starts with the body because the body is honest. It does not care about excuses or intentions. If you train it consistently, it becomes resilient. If you neglect it, it becomes weak. A strong body supports a calm mind. Controlled breathing slows impulsive reactions. A stable posture affects confidence and presence. Physical discipline teaches you how to endure discomfort without panic. When muscles burn and lungs strain, you learn that discomfort is not danger. This lesson carries into every area of life. Pressure at work, tension in relationships, uncertainty about the future. All of it becomes manageable when you have trained yourself not to collapse under strain. The mind, however, is the real battlefield. An undisciplined mind chases stimulation, reacts emotionally, and invents stories to avoid responsibility. Mastery requires observation. You notice your thoughts without obeying them. When anger arises, you do not act immediately. When fear appears, you do not retreat automatically. You create a pause. In that pause, you choose your response. This is power. Most people live reactively, pulled by impulse and circumstance. The disciplined person lives deliberately. They respond based on principle, not emotion. Consistency is where mastery is forged. Intense effort once in a while impresses people, but it does not transform you. Small, controlled actions performed daily do. Waking at the same time, training even when energy is low, keeping your word when no one is watching. These behaviors build internal trust. When you trust yourself, confidence becomes quiet and unshakable. You stop seeking validation because your standard is internal. You know who you are because you prove it to yourself every day. Self-mastery also demands restraint. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every urge needs to be satisfied. Not every battle needs to be fought. Restraint sharpens presence. People feel it when someone is in control of themselves. There is no rush, no excess, no wasted movement. Words are chosen carefully. Actions are precise. This economy of effort creates authority without force. Over time, this way of living restructures how others perceive you, not because you announce your discipline, but because it is visible in how you move, how you listen, how you decide, how you endure. Your life becomes predictable in the best way, reliable, grounded, focused, and while others wait for the right moment, the right feeling, or the right opportunity, you continue forward, refining yourself daily, knowing that mastery is not a destination but a practice repeated again and again through deliberate action and uncompromising standards applied to the smallest details of how you live and choose under pressure. And silence, respect is not created through demand, volume, or explanation. It emerges naturally when your behavior aligns with a clear internal standard. People are constantly observing, even when they say nothing. They notice how you handle inconvenience, how you respond when plans collapse, how you behave when you are challenged or ignored. Every reaction teaches others how to treat you. If you over-explain, you signal uncertainty. If you rush to defend yourself, you reveal insecurity. If you over-explain, you signal uncertainty. If you rush to defend yourself, you reveal insecurity. Bend your values under pressure. You advertise instability. Respect forms when your actions are consistent, measured, and unaffected by external noise. Presence is the foundation of this respect. Presence is not charisma or dominance, it is awareness anchored in control. When you enter a room grounded and attentive, without scanning for approval or validation, the atmosphere shifts. Your posture is upright, your movements economical, your eyes steady, you listen fully before responding. You
do not interrupt to prove intelligence. You do not fidget to release nervous energy. This composure communicates confidence without arrogance. People sense when someone is comfortable within themselves, and that comfort creates gravity. Words carry weight only when they are rare and intentional. Speaking less forces clarity. When you know you will not waste language, you choose it carefully. You stop filling silence out of discomfort. Silence becomes a tool instead of a weakness. Intense
situations, silence unsettles those who rely on reaction. While others rush to speak, justify, or argue, you remain still, processing before responding. This restraint creates authority because it shows that you are not emotionally hijacked by the moment. Control under pressure is where respect is tested. Anyone can appear composed when conditions are favorable. Few can maintain stability when challenged, criticized, or provoked. When emotions surge, the undisciplined reveal themselves immediately. Their tone sharpens, their body tightens, their words become defensive or aggressive. The disciplined individual slows down, breath deepens, expression remains neutral, response becomes deliberate. This contrast is unmistakable. People instinctively trust those who do not lose control because they signal safety, reliability, and strength. Consistency reinforces this perception over time. One calm reaction is coincidence. Many calm reactions form a pattern. People begin to expect steadiness from you. They adjust their behavior accordingly. They speak more directly. They test less. They listen more closely. Your presence becomes a reference point in chaos. This is not about superiority. It is about dependability. When others know you will not overreact or collapse, they feel the need to rise to your level or step aside. Boundaries are another silent signal of self-respect. When you say no without guilt, apology, or hostility, you communicate clarity. You do not justify your limits endlessly. You state them once and uphold them through action. Boundaries enforced calmly are stronger than boundaries defended emotionally. They teach others that your time, energy, and focus are not negotiable commodities. Over time, fewer people attempt to cross lines that are consistently maintained. Respect deepens when actions match words. Empty promises erode credibility faster than failure. When you commit and follow through, even on small things, trust accumulates. Reliability is rare, and rarity commands value. People may forget what you said, but they remember whether you showed up, whether you delivered, whether you stayed consistent when it was inconvenient, whether your behavior remained aligned regardless of audience pressure or reward. Consistency is the quiet force that reshapes identity over time. It does not announce itself, and it does not demand recognition. It operates in repetition, in the small actions that seem insignificant in isolation, but become transformative when accumulated. Most people misunderstand effort. They believe progress requires dramatic bursts of intensity, moments of inspiration, or extreme sacrifice. What actually produces lasting change is controlled, repeatable behavior performed without exception. The same wake-up time, the same training ritual, the same standard of focus, day after day, regardless of mood or circumstance. The power of consistency lies in its ability to remove friction from decision making. When actions become habitual, they no longer drain mental energy. There is no debate, no internal negotiation, no need for motivation. The body moves, the work begins, the process unfolds. This automation frees the mind to focus on execution rather than resistance. Over time, discipline becomes identity. You stop trying to be consistent because you simply are. The behavior no longer feels forced, it feels natural, even necessary. Consistency also builds credibility with yourself, which is the foundation of confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce internal trust. Every time you break one, you weaken it. Many people struggle with self-belief, not because they lack potential, but because they have repeatedly failed to honor their own commitments. Small acts of follow-through repair this damage. Finishing what you start, showing up when it would be easier to quit, maintaining standards when no one is watching. These moments accumulate into self-respect, and self-respect stabilizes the mind. The compound effect of consistency is often underestimated because it is not immediately visible. Results lag behind behavior. For a long time it feels like nothing is happening. Strength builds before it shows. Skill sharpens before it becomes obvious. Reputation forms before it is acknowledged. This delay discourages the impatient. They abandon the process just before it begins to work. The disciplined continue regardless of feedback. They understand that progress is happening beneath the surface, restructuring capability, resilience, and perception simultaneously. Consistency also sharpens awareness. Repeating an action daily reveals inefficiencies and weaknesses. You notice where focus slips, where effort is wasted, where shortcuts appear. This awareness allows refinement. The process becomes cleaner, more precise. Improvement no longer comes from doing more, but from doing better. Small adjustments compound just like effort does. This is how mastery develops without strain. Not through force, but through attention applied over time. There is also a psychological advantage to consistency. When your behavior is predictable to yourself, anxiety decreases, uncertainty creates stress, routine creates stability. This stability allows you to remain calm in external chaos. While others are thrown off by disruption, you anchor to your habits. Training continues, focus remains, standards hold. This reliability becomes a source of strength under pressure. Consistency eventually alters how others interact with you. People sense when someone is steady. They trust them with responsibility. They rely on them in critical moments. They stop questioning their capability, not because of charisma or talk, but because of patterns observed over time. Reliability becomes your reputation, and reputation, once established through consistency, speaks on your behalf even when you are not present. This form of power is subtle and enduring. It does not depend on emotion, motivation, or external validation. It is built quietly, reinforced daily, and maintained through unwavering adherence to simple actions performed with intention, patience, and discipline, long after novelty fades and attention shifts elsewhere. Restraint is often mistaken for weakness, but in reality it is one of the highest expressions of control. Most people live outwardly, reacting to every impulse, opinion and provocation. They speak as soon as a konkshin with formitur twaitam paspalotzelus. As a thought appears, they act the moment emotion rises. This lack of containment leaks energy and reveals vulnerability. True strength is shown by the ability to pause, to hold back, to choose precisely when and how to act. Restraint is not suppression, it is conscious direction. Every impulse that is not immediately acted upon strengthens awareness. When you feel the urge to respond quickly, to defend your position, or to assert dominance, and you do not, you create space between stimulus and response. In that space, clarity forms. You see the situation more fully, you recognize what actually matters and what is merely noise. This pause prevents unnecessary conflict and wasted effort. It also signals maturity, because emotionally reactive behavior is predictable and easy to manipulate. Speech is one of the clearest areas where restraint reveals itself. Words spoken carelessly cannot be taken back. They expose intention, emotion, and insecurity all at once. When you limit speech, you force precision. You speak only when there is value to add or direction to give. This economy of language makes each word heavier. People listen more closely because they know you are not speaking to fill silence. Silence, when used intentionally, becomes a form of communication. It shows comfort, patience, and self-assurance. Emotional restraint is equally critical. Feelings are temporary, but actions have lasting consequences. Anger, frustration, and excitement distort judgment. Acting while emotionally charged often leads to regret. The disciplined individual allows emotions to pass without surrendering control. They acknowledge what they feel without letting it dictate behavior. This does not make them cold, it makes them stable. Stability creates trust. Others know they will not be blindsided by unpredictable reactions. Restraint also applies to desire. Indulgence weakens focus. When every craving is satisfied immediately, tolerance decreases and dependency grows. Delaying gratification strengthens willpower. It trains the mind to prioritize long-term outcomes over short-term pleasure. Whether it is food, entertainment, attention, or comfort, moderation preserves clarity. The ability to say no to yourself quietly builds internal authority. Over time, this authority extends outward. People sense when someone is not driven by appetite or impulse. In conflict, restraint becomes strategic. Not every challenge deserves engagement. Not every insult requires response. This awareness gives you an advantage in decision-making. You see opportunities others miss because they are distracted by their own reactions. You read situations clearly because you are not clouded by urgency or ego. Over time, restraint reshapes character. It creates composure under stress, clarity in complexity, and steadiness in uncertainty. It allows strength to remain quiet and focused rather than loud and scattered. This kind of control is rare, and rarity creates presence. People feel choosing when to engage preserves energy and dignity. Many conflicts escalate because of pride, not necessity. The restrained individual does not need to prove strength through confrontation. They understand that control is more effective than dominance. When they do choose to act, it is deliberate and decisive, not emotional or reactive. Restraint sharpens perception. When you are not constantly expressing or consuming, you observe more. You notice patterns in behavior, tone, and intention.
For they understand it.
It is not announced, not explained, not forced. It is simply demonstrated through consistent intentional containment of thought, emotion, and action under all conditions. Standards shape destiny, long before outcomes become visible. Most people drift because their standards are undefined or negotiable. They allow circumstances, mood, and convenience to determine behavior. The moment a clear standard is set and upheld without exception, direction appears. A standard is set and upheld without exception. Direction appears. A standard is not a goal, it is a rule of conduct. Goals point forward, but standards govern every step. When standards are firm, decision-making becomes simple. You no longer ask what is easiest or most comfortable. You ask whether the action meets the standard, and if it does not, it is discarded. Raising standards immediately exposes resistance. Old habits push back. Comfort demands negotiation. The mind offers excuses disguised as logic. There is no debate. If the standard is punctuality, you are early. If the standard is preparation, you are ready. If the standard is integrity, you do not bend the truth to avoid discomfort. This clarity reduces mental noise and builds calm confidence. You know what is expected of you, because you set the expectation yourself and enforce it through action. Standards also influence environment. People around you adapt, consciously or unconsciously. Those aligned with discipline respect it. This resistance is not a sign of failure, it is proof that the standard is real. If nothing resists, nothing has changed. Holding the line during this phase is critical. Each time you refuse to compromise, you weaken the old pattern. Each time you give in, you reinforce it. Standards only work when they are absolute. Partial discipline creates partial results and constant internal conflict. A high standard simplifies life by removing choice fatigue. When behavior is predetermined by principle, dependent on chaos, feel uncomfortable. Some will rise to meet your standard, others will distance themselves. This is not loss, it is alignment. A strong standard filters relationships, opportunities, and commitments. It prevents distraction and protects focus. You stop wasting energy on situations that do not match the life you are building. Holding a high standard requires solitude at times. Not everyone understands uncompromising behavior. Some interpret it as arrogance or rigidity. The disciplined individual accepts this without explanation. Approval is not the objective. Coherence is. When your actions align with your values consistently, inner tension disappears. You may disappoint others, but you do not betray yourself. This internal alignment creates stability that cannot be shaken by opinion or pressure. Standards must apply, especially when no one is watching. Public discipline without private consistency is performance. True standards govern unseen moments. How you train alone, how you speak when frustrated, how you handle temptation when consequence seems distant. These moments define character. No external reward reinforces them, only self-respect does. Over time, this integrity becomes automatic. You act correctly because anything else feels wrong. Raising standards also demands patience. Results do not appear immediately. In the beginning, the only visible change is discomfort. The reward is delayed, but it is cumulative. Capability increases. Confidence deepens. Reputation solidifies. Others begin to associate you with quality, reliability, and control. Not because you claim it, but because you demonstrate it without exception. A standard upheld daily becomes a boundary that protects progress. It guards against regression during stress or success. Many fail not during hardship, but after improvement, when comfort returns. High standards prevent this collapse. They keep behavior aligned regardless of circumstance. When standards are fixed, progress becomes inevitable, not because of intensity or luck, but because every decision consistently moves in the same direction under discipline, clarity, and deliberate self-governance. Action is the final separator between intention and transformation. Many people understand what must be done. Fewer are willing to move before they feel ready. Readiness is a trap. It creates delay disguised as preparation. The disciplined individual acts while uncertainty remains. They do not wait for confidence to arrive, they move and allow confidence to follow. Action clarifies what thinking cannot. Each step forward reveals information, resistance, and capability that no amount of planning can provide. Decisive action eliminates hesitation, and hesitation drains energy. When you linger in indecision, the mind loops endlessly, weighing possibilities, imagining failure, and amplifying doubt. Once action begins, that noise quiets. Focus narrows to execution. The body aligns with purpose.
There is also a discipline in finishing. Starting is common, completing is rare. Completion requires endurance beyond excitement. It demands persistence when novelty fades. This phase defines character. Many abandon efforts not because they are incapable, but because the initial emotional reward disappears. The disciplined individual continues anyway. They understand that progress often feels dull before it feels rewarding. Completion strengthens identity more than initiation because it proves
Momentum replaces anxiety. Even imperfect action is superior to perfect intention because it creates feedback. You learn what works by doing, not by speculating. Speed matters, but not recklessness. Decisive action is not impulsive, it is committed. Once a direction is chosen, the disciplined person moves fully into it instead of second-guessing every step. They accept responsibility for the outcome. This acceptance removes fear of failure. Failure becomes information, not identity. Each attempt, reliability. Action taken daily, even in small amounts, creates inevitability. You may not see change immediately, but direction is set. Repeated execution removes chance from success. When effort is consistent, outcomes are a matter of time, not luck. This understanding removes urgency and replaces it with calm persistence. You act without drama, without announcement, without waiting for permission. Deliberate action under uncertainty trains adaptability. Conditions will never be perfect. Refines judgment and sharpens skill. Over time, decisiveness becomes a habit. You trust your ability to adapt, so you stop fearing commitment. Action also reshapes self-perception. Every time you act despite discomfort, you prove to yourself that resistance is survivable. Fear loses authority when repeatedly challenged. The mind stops exaggerating consequences because experience contradicts imagination. Courage is built this way, not through affirmation but through exposure. The body learns. Waiting for certainty guarantees stagnation. Those who move while conditions are unclear develop resilience. They learn to adjust, correct, and continue without collapsing. This adaptability becomes a competitive advantage in any environment. While others freeze when plans fail, you recalibrate and advance. Over time, action becomes your language. You speak through results rather than explanation. You answer doubt with execution. You replace intention with evidence. This shift is irreversible. That uncertainty does not equal danger. Consistency in action builds momentum that compounds. One step makes the next easier. Progress creates motivation, not the other way around. When you see yourself moving forward, even slowly, belief strengthens, stagnation weakens, resolve because it feeds doubt. Movement interrupts doubt. It forces alignment between intention and behavior. This alignment stabilizes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who plans and start seeing yourself as someone irreversible once internalized. When action becomes your default response to challenge, hesitation loses power, fear becomes manageable, and progress becomes a byproduct of daily movement rather than an abstract goal chased through thought alone.